Anyway, Oliver is in Middlesex. He's giving me a call on 0344 499 1000. Oliver, you're very welcome to Talk TV. What would you like to say?
Good morning, Peter. How are you? Very
well, thanks. How are you?
Just following on, I think it was Lucy that mentioned what I was going to talk about a moment ago. We basically can't get involved in foreign conflicts whilst we have, as has been referred to by many people, a Trojan horse army that we don't know who's in our country, we don't know their intent, we don't know what possible reasons they have for choosing the routes when there are legal routes.
You think security at home is the big issue then, Oliver?
Absolutely, and I would back that up with things like the positive discrimination that went on with the RAF about a year ago, I think, where white males were not encouraged to apply because they wanted to recruit. And
yeah, we covered that on this station. There are a number of problems clearly with armed forces and with recruitment and with positive discrimination as well. Let me, Oliver, stay where you are. I promise you I'll come back to you, but I want to put that point to Lucy and to Michael. Lucy, what do you make of what Oliver has said there?
I mean, my view is that as David Cameron said, to not act is a choice. To not act in any particular way is a decision. And therefore, I think if we do have values that we want to uphold, and you were right to pick me up on the idea that the Houthi rebellion, if you like, is very much about economics, but actually it is also about freedom. It is also about people having the right to ply their trade, and the Houthis just saying, well, no, that's not possible, we're going to stop that. And although actually what I would say on that point is that a lot of the ships that the Houthi rebels have been targeting haven't been Israeli. They made a big claim about how it was actually only going to be Israeli, but actually mainly it's Egyptian and Jordanian boats. But I think yes, it is the first job of a government is to protect its own citizens.
Are we doing both, do you think?
Well, we need to do both. Yeah. We can't be global citizens. We can't be a country on the planet and just have an isolationist defence policy. It can only be about us. It has to be about actually putting our money where our mouth is, like Rishi Sunak going to Ukraine and offering more to Zelensky. It is about saying, well, we support you, not least because 2 generations ago, when the role was reversed and we felt that we were fighting, let's say, Nazi Germany, we wanted our allies to come to support us.
But it is a bit a la carte. It is a bit a la carte, is it not? You were talking earlier about Ethiopia, Eritrea, even Yemen, for example. Lots of people suddenly care about Yemen.
Absolutely. Nobody's been talking about this.
You can care less for the last 7 or 8 years.
Since 2015, seeking to rescue women who are being treated absolutely abominably in that country. And then you've got people who are going on these demonstrations who don't seem to understand what kind of country it is that they're supporting or what kind of people that they're supporting. Okay. So I think actually it is appropriate that we actually put our foot forward and say we're going to support people that whose values we share.
Okay, Michael Crick.
Well, I'd like to go back to the Palestinians' point here. I mean, there's a sort of an assumption that the Palestinian cause is wrong and the Israeli cause is right, and it's much more complicated.
Of course,
than that. We all know that, and I don't condone in any way whatsoever the Hamas attacks of October the 7th. They were absolutely atrocious, dreadful, whatever adjective you want to give me, I will use on that scale. Mm-hmm. And of course the fact that the hostages are still suffering and don't know what's going to happen to them at all, and the families and all of that, I condemn. Nonetheless, I think we have to acknowledge that the Palestinians over the last 80 years have suffered appalling injustices in the Middle East and have been and have suffered in recent times in the settlement program in the West Bank, which the Americans have failed to stop the Israelis carrying out, and the way in which the Israeli armed forces and security forces have turned a blind eye to settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank. All sorts of injustices have occurred. That doesn't in any way justify, not in one way does it justify what happened on October the 7th. But I do think we need to acknowledge that the right and wrong on this side is not a plain black and white issue.
But things were changing. That's the irony, is that one of the reasons why the October the 7th atrocities took place was because Hamas in particular could see the way that the wind was turning, that Israel was becoming closer with Saudi Arabia, that actually there were shifts in time that were I suppose, not to their liking, and therefore they were scared that actually...
Yes, well, I think that's right. But they weren't changing for the poor Palestinians living in the West Bank who were constantly having their land stolen by Israeli settlers, encouraged by the very right-wing government in Israel, which I acknowledge is a democratic country. In some ways, it's so democratic that it's under its PR system, it's ended up with a government that includes extremists.
But don't you think that should have been part of the way in which the West should have been dealing with this, is actually to try to address the Hamas problem? Because Hamas has not been serving the population of Gaza in any shape or form.
I know
it's absolutely atrocious.
It is an appalling government. And the irony is that you get many people on the left supporting Hamas and the Houthis, and they are some of the most illiberal groups on the planet. Nonetheless, that the Palestinians have been badly suffered appalling injustice over the last 80 years, and we are further from a two-state solution than ever. Okay. I mean, that is, and it's very difficult to see how you get rid of the Israeli settlers in the West Bank and create a two-state solution. I mean, they did get rid of Israelis from Gaza.
They pulled out 2005.
That was a lot more.
I just want to bring in Oliver. Sorry to interrupt you, Lucy. We'll let you come back in, but I just want to bring Oliver back in. Oliver, what do you make of what you've heard from Lucy and Michael?
I can see both Lucy and Michael's points of view, but Michael's concentrating on maybe the last 80 years. This has been historic. Everybody...
Well, he's nodding his head. He agrees with you, Oliver. It's been around for such a long time. Yeah.
It has. But, you know, until there are... We cannot sort out all the injustices around the world with our country in the state that it's in at the moment. So until we don't know who's in the country, we cannot put our own innocent civilians at risk because of people on freedom marches, as they call them, preaching out what is basically riling up the demographic of people that they're appealing to, and I want that security for our country before we start sticking our noses into foreign conflict.
Can you, just briefly, Oliver, can you have both? Doesn't one sort of come into another? Global security and national security, don't the two link up in some way?
It does, but back at home we need... I mean, if we're recruiting into armed forces, how do we know, and same with police, how do we know that as soon as something else doesn't go wrong...
Well, hopefully people are vetted going in there, but Oliver, thank you. Time has beaten us slightly, Oliver, but thank you very much for all your points. I hope you feel you've had your say. Just with about 2 minutes left, I want literally 1 minute from each of you. Rwanda votes this week. What happens? Michael Crick, go.
Oh, I haven't done the sums. It's a mess. It will carry on being a mess. Will the government get its way? Probably not, actually. There seem to be so many rebels. The trouble is, if the government gives in to the rebels on the right, then the Conservatives on the left, the One Nation Conservatives, they start rebelling. Normally they don't rebel much, but they seem to, this time it seems like that they're willing to. So difficult to see how they get it through. And it's difficult to see how anybody is flown off to Rwanda before the election.
And then Labour scraps it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing in principle about taking people to somewhere else to process their claims or whatever, but I think Rwanda is the wrong place. Its human rights record is dreadful. But Lucy.
So you'd say somewhere like the Isle of Wight, maybe, that maybe has a better track record.
I think one or two people might have
the Isle of Wight might have an issue with that.
So I think yes. So I think it will. I think it will probably scrape through. I think it's less about the actual amendments and more about noises off different factions within the Conservative Party with their eye to what's happening, what's going to happen after the general election. The assumption is that the Conservatives will lose the general election, and at that point, all bets are off as to which faction of the party is going to seize control. And this is just the forum for which that's being played out. I don't think any of the 5 families, I don't think any of the different groups actually care about the bill. I think they care more about their own survival.
It is interesting. It's almost like a rubbish sequel to Brexit, sort of Die Hard 2. It's sort of Brexit 2, Brexit harder. You know, it's just all of these cleavages.
I think
and
that's how they'd
are,
like it to be seen. I mean, certainly the ERG think, hey, we've got our Spartan role again.
Yeah.
But actually that was such a pure issue, such a discrete thing that people were for and against. This
Mark
is way
Francois
more
relevant once again. Michael Crick, thank you very much indeed, and Lucy Beresford, really appreciate you coming in and being a superb panel today.